Hello students, this is Vickie Denlinger, Instructor of Mathematics at Bridgewater College. I'll be discussing how to draw, edit, group, and clone shapes in Smart Notebook.
We'll start by looking at our Shapes tool, and when I click on that I have some other options. I have my circles, my rectangles, and so on. And if I click on this arrow, I even have other tools that I can use. Now, I can click on that and I can just draw my shape, and then I can click on my selection tool and select it, and then I can change my color. So I'll go over here to my vertical toolbar and I'll select my tool palette here, and I can fill this in with a solid color, a gradient fill. I'll just choose the green this time. The other thing that I can do is I can click on my Shapes tool. I think this time I'll use my regular polygon tool and I'll choose a pentagon. And I can also select my color before I even draw it. So I'll select a solid fill and we'll make this one yellow, and I can draw that in. Now, one nice thing that I can do in Smart Notebook is to create a shape. I'll just start off with a rectangle, and then I want to give it some color. I think I'll make this burgundy. And then I can also type some text. Now for this text I'm going to choose yellow for my text color before I type anything, because I want it to contrast with the color of the rectangle. So I'll just say, "Hello students." And I can grab my handle and I can use my mouse arrow to drag that wherever I want it on the screen. And then the next thing I'll do is select my mouse arrow, and I will highlight the two objects, and now I'm going to group them together. So they're now grouped. Now, I mentioned that I'd be using an infinite cloner. Well, if I want to infinite clone this, there is an arrow in the upper right hand corner, and when I select that and I drag down, I have an infinite cloner, and I click on that, and now I click and drag. And if I need to use the same text box more than one time, I can just keep dragging on it and create as many as I need. So the question is, how can I create something using these shapes? Well, one thing that you can do is to create a Connect 4 game board to use with your students. And they can actually play on this board. They'll drag the pieces and put them right in. So the first thing we'll do is to create a new screen. So I'll click on my Add a Page, and I think I'd like to have a background color. So I need to make sure that nothing is selected. And I'll choose a solid fill. And so that I can see my Connect 4 board, I want to make this a light color. So I'll choose gray for this one. Now, I also want the word Connect 4, and I want my font to be creative. So one thing that I can do with this is I can have a Word document running in the background, and I can go to Insert Word Art. Now, once I get to Word Art, I can choose whatever type of font that I want and type in my Connect 4, and then I can snip it. So I have a snipping tool on my screen, and I'll go ahead and click on the new snip so you can see what I'm doing here. And I'll click and drag, and now I can edit that, copy it, and I'll go back to my notebook file, and I can edit, paste it into my notebook file, and I'll drag that and make it smaller. So how do I get my game board? To get my game board, I'll have some circles here, and I want to make them white circles at least to start with. So I'll create a circle here, and I'm also going to clone that. I'll make it an infinite cloner because I'm going to need some colored chips, and I'm also going to need to create a row for my green board. And I think I'll choose to put 6 in there. My row of 6 circles is actually going to be a row of my game board. I'm going to turn off my infinite cloner now, and I'm going to click and drag over these circles to group them together. Now, I also need a background for those for my game board frame. So I'll click on a rectangle, and I want to be able to see what I'm doing, so I'm not going to give this any color to start with. But I'll drag over it. And now I'm going to click on my selection tool, and now I'm going to give it some color. And I think I'll make this yellow. But my problem is that my rectangle is covering my circles. So to fix that, I'll click on my arrow tool here, and I want to go to order. When I get to the order, I want to send that yellow rectangle to the back. I've done exactly what I wanted to do. So now I'll click and drag that, and I'll group these together. And I'm going to make an infinite cloner. And the reason I'm going to make an infinite cloner is because now I have a second row of my game board. I have a third row of my game board. I have a fourth row, fifth row, and if I want a sixth row, I'll put one in, and I'll space these so that they look nice. And I'll need to take off my infinite cloner first. But I'll group all of these together. And I'm also going to lock them in place, because when students play, I don't want my game board moving. Just a couple things left to do. I'm going to make a frame for my game board. So I'll choose a solid color, and I'm going to use a black frame for my rectangle. And there's a frame. I can move this down just a little bit. This will do. About that. And I'll group these two together. And then I'll clone it so that I have one on the other side. Except now my foot's going in the wrong direction, but I can fix that too. I'll click on my arrow and I'll flip it horizontally. Flip, and we'll flip left to right. And now my leg is going in the right direction. So I have a game board. Now all I need are chips to go on that game board. So I'm going to go back up here and select this circle, and I've decided I want blue chips, and I've also decided to make it an infinite cloner. And now I can create my chips here, and students can play. I can do the same thing for this one, except this one I think I'll make red. I'll make it an infinite cloner, and I've just created my Connect 4 game board. Have fun!